But let's go to the Education Secretary, first of all, Justine Greening, in Putney. Well, you only just scraped back in Putney, didn't you?
Well, I'm delighted to have been re-elected as the MP for Putney, Roehampton and Southfields. It's always a tough battle here in London. That's what we've seen tonight. And I think the other factor behind this is very much young people really, for the first time in many years, finally choosing to use the vote that they've got in the ballot box. But yes, I'm delighted to be able to continue to serve my local community.
So what is it about the Conservative Party that doesn't appeal to young people?
I think Labour very much offered young people something that was appealing to them in terms of the obvious policy around tuition fees, the fact that it's unaffordable. The IFS said it had a black hole. In a way, was not something that particularly necessarily dissuaded them from thinking that that was a policy that they wanted to vote for. But I think it's quite early on in the evening, and a lot of the seats that declare early now are more urban seats. I think it's worth pointing out that both Battersea and Putney are the two seats in our country with the very youngest demographic. So we've particularly seen that perhaps coming through in the votes here, and there's a very long way to go in this election through the course of the night.
If we know we've now made a forecast of 322, that's short of a majority for the Tories in the House of Commons. What's the future of the Tory party and of Theresa May and of the Brexit negotiations, if that is the final result?
Well, I don't think at this point it's particularly worthwhile getting into speculation. There are a huge number of results to still come through. As I said at the beginning of this, London is always an incredibly hard-fought political environment. Everybody knows that down here, who's been out on the doorstep. I'm just delighted that I've been re-elected to represent my own community. It's one that I've represented for 12 years. I think it's fantastic that I get the chance to continue to do that.
Did you expect a majority of 60, 70, 100 for the Conservatives?
I think it was very difficult to tell exactly how the election would play out, not least because actually when you look at the polls, they're national polls, but in practice I think we all know that perhaps results have never been more regionally driven, and therefore the days that we can really look at a global picture of somehow what's going on across the UK and rely on it to give us any kind of accurate sense of what's really happening on the ground, I think are gone. And we saw that in some of the polls that were reported in the papers this morning. I've often thought that in 2005, if you'd interviewed 1,000 people in my constituency of Putney, would you really have seen the swing that I was about to first get re-elected? I don't know. But I think what it shows is it's exceptionally hard in these political climates to really see what's going on the ground, and that's what we're seeing tonight.
So does it make sense in those circumstances to say I've concluded the only way to guarantee certainty and stability for the years ahead is to hold this election, which I've said over and over again I won't hold? Words of the Prime Minister.
I think the Prime Minister was right to recognise that Britain was in a very different place now than we were in 2015, and it was right to go to the country and to ask them the question about what their views were, what people's views were about the direction that they wanted for the future. It may be that what we're seeing in this vote is that people are still in a debate about what that future direction should be, but it is very, very early days. So I think it's easy to pick on some results in some parts of the country and to say that they are going to be massively representative. I suspect you'll continue to see some very locally driven results that will on occasion contrast, as we've seen the Conservatives doing very well in Scotland, less well in London, and I think we'll have to see how this plays out across the rest of the night.
Justine Greening, thank you very much.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.